Welcome back to MVM. Today we have a Kickstarter preview sitting here on the chairs. We have Nick from Indie Boards and Cards. We're here to talk about the next Aeon's Endgame, which is...
Aeon's End, the New Age.
Yes.
Everyone wants to know what's new in this game.
Exactly.
Legacy is just now shipping to backers, so
right. It's mostly shipped. Just about everybody has it. Hopefully by the time we launch, everyone will have it.
All right.
And it released in retail a week ago from when we're filming, about a month from when the Kickstarter launches. So yeah, Legacy is out, and most people seem to love it. So we wanted to make sure we got all the feedback from people who played Legacy before we started designing another Legacy game, make sure people liked it and what they liked and didn't like, so that we could take that into account before we started designing something else. So we decided to design Aeon's End, the New Age.
So is this a continuation of that same storyline?
It is a continuation of the same storyline, but if you jumped in here, you wouldn't really be spoiled very much if you played this game first before playing Legacy.
How many years after?
Yeah.
Well, it is a new age.
Okay.
So I'm going to give you roughly like a generation or so.
Okay.
Oh.
So most of those people are probably toast by now, right?
Somebody else said this. It's like, do you really think that people just die every generation? David, you are like more than 2 generations old.
I am.
How did you make it?
I don't know. So this is not Legacy, but it does seem to ride a line between Legacy and then the other games, right?
So yeah, so what the New Age does is introduce the expedition system. And it'll tell you that in the beginning of the rulebook, hey, you're going to play an expedition. And it kind of walks you through and holds your hand through the first expedition. It doesn't really teach you a lot of the expedition rules. And at the end, you'll get a rulebook that says, here how you can use all of your content to play as many expeditions as you want.
I see.
So basically an expedition is 4 battles. So you'll encounter 4 different nemeses. You'll start off with 4 mages and a supply. And at the end of every game, you will get new supply cards and you will unlock this new card type called treasures. So the treasures will make your character better, or your group better as you play through, and then the nemesis will get upgraded basic cards that will get shuffled into his deck. So they'll get harder as they go through. Additionally, when you encounter the nemeses, they'll be the stronger nemeses as the game goes on, because we already rank the nemeses by difficulty.
So do these treasures follow you along from one of the boss battles to the next one?
Exactly. So there are 3 different types of treasures that you'll get, because you don't start them with the first game. And after the first game, you will unlock Tier 1 treasures. And you'll notice again the characters from previous Aeon's End, because all the Tier 1 treasures are the unique starter cards from previous Aeon's End characters. And what you'll do is you'll replace a spark or crystal in your starting deck with one of these treasures.
Oh, cool.
So you'll start a little bit more powerful from the get-go once you have a Tier 1 treasure. Tier 2 treasures are team treasures. So you'll pick it out and you'll put it in the middle of the table. Some of them specify to set it near a certain supply pile, etc. But they'll be treasures that anyone can use, and they'll help to, shape your strategy for that game, because they'll give you a bonus for opening a breach, or for buying the specific market card, or emptying market piles, or activating your ability. Stuff that everybody can do, and it might give you another incentive to go that direction.
And level 3s?
Level 3 treasures.
I'm interested.
Hey, look, you can count. So you'll get a level 3 treasure, and everyone will pick one, and they'll set it on their playmat, and it is a constant ability for you. A couple of them are at the start of the game, and some of them trigger when you do a specific thing, and some of them are just every turn.
So it's interesting. All of these Aeon's Ends that you've developed have been cross-compatible from one series to the next. Are those treasures going to be able to be used and carried over to other games, or are they specific to just the New Age?
You will be able to use them whenever you play the expedition system.
Okay.
And honestly, if you wanted to make the game easier, if you were like, I've been playing this boss on increased difficulty,
It just
and
makes
I just
you more
can't
powerful.
do it. Right, exactly.
Okay. I'm seeing some new breaches too. What are these?
So yeah, there are a few mages here. We've designed a bunch of mages for Aeon's End, and for Legacy, you design your own, and it's tens of thousands of possibilities. So we've had to create some new design space here, or explore some new design space. So the mages in here are they're kind of the most complicated, or the most interesting ones that we've made so far, as far as adding new components. So you've touched upon the 3 breaches there that you see there. So those are tied to specific mages. So one of them, the guy that you have at the far end of the table by you, is Takrin, and he has a defender breach. So basically it's his 4 breach, so once he opens it, whenever he casts a spell from there, Gravehold will gain an additional life.
Okay.
So he heals Gravehold when he casts spells from that breach. His ability also lets him focus a breach and let somebody gain life equal to his open breaches. So his sort of strategy is open up all your breaches and then be the healer / tank guy.
Okay.
So there are 3 breaches like that. There's another mage that we have ready that has a specific breach. And on top of that, with the new unique mages, a lot of the mages have their own kind of side deck that they have access to.
Okay.
There are a pair of characters that are twins that I believe they're both stretch goals that have their own. They have two identical starting cards, one in their starting hand and one in their deck, and their ability lets them upgrade it. So they would trash it and get a better version, and then trash that and get another better version. And then their ability, once you're fully upgraded, that ability will let you pick up those cards and return them to your hand instead of upgrading them.
So when you said you had other characters ready, I noticed that you have envelopes. This is very similar to what you had in the Legacy system.
Correct.
Which is really cool because it incentivizes people to keep playing the game and discovering new things. What are they going to find in the envelopes in the New Age?
So in these envelopes, at the end of the chapter, along with the story, you'll have found a new mage. So you'll have either rescued them or encountered them along the battle that you were partaking in. And then at the beginning of the next chapter, you'll open the new nemesis that you're going to fight.
Okay.
So the blue ones are
mages.
Mages, and the red ones are the nemeses?
Correct.
Or nemeses?
Nemeses, yeah.
I have to say, we played this the other day, and the lure of those bosses is so unique. Each time you play them, it feels like a giant puzzle that you're trying to figure out because they'll have different ways that they're going to proc and do damage to you and how you have to mitigate all that damage, which makes the game really unique each time that you play it.
Right.
So how many total new bosses are people going to be expecting?
Assuming that we hit all our stretch goals, it'll be 7.
Okay.
But the base is 4, right?
The base is 4. The base game will always have 4. And that's kind of a precedent that we set with Aeon's End and War Eternal. So the other ones will be tucked into expansion content.
Can you give us any clue on what these new bosses may be doing? Because I know you may have borrowed some content from older ones to introduce people to it, but also you're probably looking at new ways and design space for that as well.
Yeah, so one of the nemesis that the one that we showed first was called Magoth. So Magoth, according to the story, is a descendant of Carapace Queen, which was one of the first 2 bosses in Aeon's End. Her unleash was put 2 husks into play, so she was kind of this big bug thing that put these little bugs into play. Her big mini boss, we call it, is your tier 3 minion that comes into play. It was called the Maggot Engine, which was this gross looking thing that pooped out even more little guys. And so this is kind of a descendant of a couple of those minions together has formed Magoth over the several generations that has passed since then. So she uses, or it uses, a mat that is similar, but mechanics that are different as far as how you can damage them and how they hurt you for piling up.
Right.
But she's the only one that's really kind of a direct descendant of those previous ones.
Okay. So that'll feel familiar at the beginning.
Right.
And then you introduce completely new ones. You want to give us any sort of, or can you?
Yeah, so I can talk about, so in the previous game you find, well, actually in War Eternal and even as early as Aeon's End, you become familiar with this character called Zaxos, who's one of the mages, and Zaxos wants to study the nemeses in order to fight them, right? Learn what they're doing and kind of harness some of their power. So over the course of some of the games, he kind of story-wise gets a bit of a following. And now Zaxos is a little kind of AFK, out of the picture for a little bit.
Has he become corrupted?
I don't want to spoil anything for you, but his followers, one of them is somebody that you're going to fight during the expedition in the middle of him trying to kind of transform himself into a nameless.
Cool.
So over the course of that battle, he is going to, every time he unleashes, he moves on this track as he gets closer to his ascendancy. And then you can pay mana to move, or Aether to move him back, but he's gonna get there. He's gonna transform. It just depends on how well you do, determines how powerful that final boss is that you fight. So it's a 2-stage battle, and when he transforms, you put this basically giant minion into play, and he may be really powerful if you didn't do a good job of sort of offsetting the way he gains tokens.
Interesting.
And he could be weaker if you manage to get him before that.
When can people expect to, if everything goes according to plan, expect to start playing this one?
I hope that we can have it to people around August.
So Gen Con time?
Yeah, Gen Con. We managed to hit that delivery for War Eternal. Aeon's End, it being the first of its kind, and us trying to figure out organization stuff with it, was a little delayed. I think that came out in November. And then Legacy we hoped to deliver in November, and it came out in December and January. Legacy is a whole different beast because you're making components that the factory has never made before when you come to some of those sticker sheets, etc. So I think if everything goes according to plan and there are no hiccups, I think that we can deliver in August, September, and then hopefully no later than November. But I would think, because the files are pretty much done, there's some tweaks and some editing, obviously, but we have all the art for it, and we're just kind of hammering out the little missing pieces as is.
Yeah, it looks really great. We're looking forward to diving into this one a little bit more. I think everyone's going to like the fact that maybe it's not all the way legacy,
right,
but it certainly it borrows some of that sort of
the DNA.
Yeah, the DNA of like connections between your gameplays for sure, while maybe not going all the way, right?
Right, exactly. Yeah, we had people that were, when we had War Eternal come out, they were clamoring for a way to connect the one-off experience that was Aeon's End. And Kevin and I, the designer, were really interested in legacy games. So we were like, this is a way that we can give people a campaign experience that they're asking for, and be really, hit those creative juices for us to make a legacy game and make the first legacy deck builder, right? Well, we knew that some people just don't like legacy games, right? They don't like the disposable experience, they don't like stickering, they don't like the downtime between games, right? So we tried to make a legacy game that was still good for them, because legacy served as an expansion also. But then, since we didn't want to make another legacy game because we wanted the feedback, we were like, well, we can still help those people out. We can still, satisfy that need and make a replayable campaign experience that you can do with everything, and have a rule set that there's progression and there's a tie-in from one game to the next. And this scratches that itch. It's not as big of an experience because it is only 4 battles instead of the, on average 8 to 12 games that we had with legacy players.
Right.
The story isn't as deep, but you will play through the first story, and then we can't really write a story that ties together every expedition that you would ever play.
Sure.
So
Right.
there's just the mechanics set up for
Right.
it. But yeah, so it's definitely something that, like, if you love Aeon's End, you could sit down and play through a campaign in a day if you were committed to doing that, or you could break it up into 2 days, and that's kind of the length that we chose for that reason. And there's an interesting progression. You have choices between the games, but you're not stickering in new rules to the rule book and opening a bunch of new components.
Yeah,
and
not
stickering
destroying
stuff on.
anything.
Right, exactly.
It gives you that sense of discovery, though. All these envelopes, like I'm sitting here and I just want to
Open them
all up and look and see
Right.
what's inside.
Yeah.
Well, best of luck with the Kickstarter. Make sure you guys check out the Kickstarter page for all the final graphics. As you notice, the things we're throwing up on screen are just prototype at this point.
Yeah.
Good luck.
Thank you.
And you're launching when?
We are launching February 12th.
Perfect. All right. Make sure you subscribe to us, follow us on Twitter, like us on Facebook, and now follow us on Instagram, and we will catch you guys next time.
Bye-bye.